Friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for a video channel. And this is Huck TV, and Huck is alive and well, and she is being a crazy girl because it's minus 16 here, wind chill. We went outside the first time she ever went outside, and she said, "Daddy, I want to come in." But before we get into things, I got to tell you about something I'm going to be doing for a third year in a row. It's the 2025, this time it's a Caribbean Bigfoot cruise. And they made up a little poster for me. I'm supposed to show this to you. We're going to be leaving from Miami. We're going to the Virgin Islands, St. Martin, Nassau, the Bahamas. And I'm telling you, I've already reviewed it. I went over it. It's going to be outstanding. Not only do you have great speakers like Mr. Paulides, you also have Dr. Mariah Mayer from her TV series about Bigfoot. You got Ryan Golombeski, and you got Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I am the only person who has gone on this now 3 times. Jeff went on it 2.5. He had to leave once because he wasn't feeling well. But, friends, I'm telling you, this is a great deal. And they're offering you a special package if you sign in right there with those details. Use the code DPCruises25 and get $25 off and $75 in merchandise. Cruise as little as $25.75 for 2 people. You can't beat that. You just can't beat it. I've gone on these cruises before. The food is outstanding. And we are doing something super special this time. And I'm going to clue you in as to what that is. We are going to arrive, at least all my friends are. I'm assuming you're one of my friends. We're going to be arriving a day early for the cruise. And this has all gone through the cruise sign-up list. We're going to get there and we're going to take a trip to Coral Castle. It's been on my bucket list my whole life. I said, hey, I'm going to do the research on it. I'll host it. Let's just do it. And the cruise people said, the people organizing the cruise said, yeah, Dave, that's a great idea. We're going to do it. So, yeah, we're doing that. Coral Castle. Look it up. It's about an hour outside of Miami. We're going to bus there, spend the day there. And Coral Castle is a place where they have these 10-ton pieces of coral, and they built this castle essentially. And how the guy did it is the mystery, and that is a mystery. Trust me. So we're gonna go do that, and I'm looking forward to that. A couple of things. I wanted to read you a nice note that somebody sent in. It said, "Dear Dave, I'm a professional long arm quilter. If you're not sure what that is, what that profession is, as many don't, I have a 14-foot sewing machine which I use to finish quilts for people by adding the stitches that secure the top of the quilt to the backing and the inner soft batting. I spend long hours at my machine when I am doing this, so I have a lot of time to listen. I got tired of music in 2020 and discovered podcasts. Yes, I'm old school and didn't even know what a podcast was. It was during lockdown when obviously things were crazy, but thankfully I still had my long arm business going strong. Realizing something was off with the whole situation, I started searching for news, podcasts, etc. for answers to this crazy world that I wasn't finding on a regular media. Somewhere along the line, I found you. I've always been interested in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, and like. When I came across your videos, I was hooked and astounded. It's interesting how some other information out there on other podcasts links to what you are doing. You're definitely on track to something. I've listened to all your videos, read all your 411 books, and asked for your Hoopa project books for Christmas. Got them, can't wait to read them. A few years ago, one of my quilting clients dropped off a Bigfoot quilt to be finished. And I knew when I saw it that I had to make one for you. My business doesn't allow me much time to sew projects on my own, But I found the time and I'm sending you this to enjoy. Hopefully nobody else has made one for you. It's my way of saying thank you to you, Huck, and Angie. Angie left, so she's not here anymore. For all the information you have shared that keeps my mind occupied while I'm working. Yes, what you do is more than entertainment, it's information. I know that you have saved more than one life through both mental illness awareness, hunter safety, and hiking safety. I'm truly grateful for all you have done and continue to do. I think we are getting closer to answers. I would be honored if you choose to display my quote in an episode and my general location, but please leave my name out. If you don't broadcast my gift to you, that's fine too. I just want you to know I appreciate it. She lives in a small town in central Illinois. The quilt hasn't been washed yet. Huck is going to smell my dog on it. Machine wash cold and tumble dry low. You guys aren't going to believe this one. So it's really cool. It's got nice big trees on it. Got Bigfoot on it. Look at that. What a piece of work. Beautiful. And Huck is right here at the here smelling it. Well, here. And there's Huck smelling the quilt. Just like the lady said. Huck's going, hey, who is that? I like it. Interesting, Dad. Well, I'm going to take it up off the floor. I'm going to put it on my couch tonight. All right. Thanks so much for the wonderful thoughts. You know, gifts that are made are always special. And I take them as special. I've got a couple knives that people have made that I use. I'll use this blanket. Wow. You guys are just too nice. And thank you. Thank you. Today, what we've got... Hi there, Huck. Did you think that was cool? We've got... two cases for you. They're very different and very, very, very strange. First case is out of Idaho. It's not in the Idaho book. It's from some of our original research. And I really want you to hang in there on this story. I know some of you people don't like older stories. I'm telling you this is relevant. The reason I started researching older stories long ago is what if there was a connection long ago to today? Then that would kind of abolish people's idea that our government had some secret science 100 years ago and was abducting people with it 100 years ago. Yeah, that's not really believable. But if there was something happening 100 years ago that was truly bizarre that's still happening today, then you've got to think that it's something beyond our world. So, as we get on it, the man's name was Jozef Unger, 71 years old, went missing October 9th, 1919, about 106 years ago. He was a resident of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he was a famous bowler, B-O-W-L-E-R, bowler, and he owned hotels in Pittsburgh. He was married, had no kids. He loved the outdoors, and he loved hunting. Now, the articles at the beginning of this story said he was a famous athlete at 71. Keep that in mind. Now, in 1914, Joseph was hunting in Pennsylvania, and he went missing. He went missing for 3 days, and they ended up finding him. Everything was okay, and they really didn't make a big deal about it. Now, I want you to understand something. When people go missing, they don't know how, most of the time, they don't know how they went missing, where they went when they were missing, or how they were found. That's kind of the 411 of it. But this is about a different incident. This is about a trip he took to Idaho. Now, on October 6, 1919, he left for Idaho with 3 friends from Pennsylvania. And these friends were mainly interested in going out and checking on some mines, mineral mines. And Joseph said he'd go along. He had the money, he had the time, and he said he'd go. It was not originally a hunting trip, even though he was a big hunter. The group arrived on October 8th in Mackay, Idaho. And right away they went to this person, contact, and they checked out a mine. Joseph went with them. And then Joseph, on a mere freaky chance, ran into somebody he knew from Pennsylvania that was a hunting guide now in Idaho. And his name was Fouts. And they hit it off really well, and Fouts said, well, if you have some time, I'll take you hunting. And he goes, yeah, I'd rather go hunting than look around at these mines. And there was kind of a parting of the ways between his friends and him. He was going to go hunting, they were going to check mines. Well, that night, Fouts took him to his cabin, which was out in the middle of nowhere. And they kind of made that their mainstay location. And Unger spent the night there. Well, Fouts and Unger were really good friends when he was in Pennsylvania, so it's kind of strange that they met each other. So the friends that Unger came out there with to look at the mine were a man named E.J. Joy, which was a broker for Union Bank, a man named G.O. Rambo, who was a builder, a man named J.E. Skiles, also a builder, and they were all interested in investing in these mines. Now, Fouts, when he got Joseph to the cabin, gave him one of his rifles to use, and they were going to be hunting along a place called Vanity Creek in the Rapid River. Fouts believed, hey, game always comes down to the river late in the afternoon, and it'd be an easy walk for Unger, and it would be hard to get lost walking right next to the river. So as they're walking along, it became apparent that Unger wasn't real well. And it was stated he was in ill health, and he lagged behind Fouts, got real slow. So they sat down and they talked, and Fouts said, hey, I think what I'll do is I'm going to go up to the ridge up here above the river, and I'm going to push the game down to you by the river. You just keep walking this direction, I'll keep pushing them that direction. You see something come down, shoot it. So I said, okay. So Fouts goes up, Unger's walking along the river, and Fouts is pushing deer for about 90 minutes. Now, here's where they were. This is McCall, Idaho. This is the general area they were in. Here's Chalice, Stanley, Sunbeam. This area out here, there's nothing out there. Salmon Chalice National Forest, very remote, very beautiful, really beautiful. So after 90 minutes, pushing game, Fouts doesn't hear any shots fired. And he comes down to the river at a place where there's this fork in the trail. One goes to a place called Seafoam, and another place goes to Cape Horn. And he followed Joseph's tracks right to this fork, and then the tracks doubled back. Fouts was an excellent tracker. He could track anybody over almost anything. Except when he started to track Unger going back up the river, he lost him on rocks. It's very hard to track on rocks. And he lost him. Now, Fouts also knew by talking to Unger that he had been in 5 serious car accidents. And that was one of the reasons why he was just slow on his feet. But Unger said he could figure things out. He was okay. Fouts said as long as I kept him down near the river, I kind of felt he wouldn't get lost. Fouts hiked back and forth late that afternoon, couldn't find Unger, and eventually at about dark, he hikes back to his cabin. Now, his cabin was a long ways from anything. So the next morning he wakes up, Unger's not around, and he goes out on his own, being a guide, knowing the area, and he starts looking for Unger. Looks for him all day, and then he decides he better leave and get some U.S. Forest Service help. That's who he contacted. He explained the situation. That was the morning of the 12th. And the Forest Service manager got a couple other rangers to assist Fouts in going back to that area where they lost Unger. October 13th, they had a total of 4 people now searching. They went back to the river area, searched up, down, sideways. No shots heard, nothing. October 14th, word got back to Pennsylvania that Unger was missing. And the family immediately contacted the governor of Idaho for assistance. I've always told you, the family that gets out there and pushes for more help is the family that's going to get it. Now, Unger's family was pretty well to do back then, and they got the ear of the governor. On October 16th, the governor made a call to all regional state forest rangers to within 200 miles to report to this area to start searching. He also got the ear of the Forest Service and demanded the same thing. Everybody made it an imperative point to say that the rivers in this area, all of them, and the creeks were very low in the fall. You know, maybe just above ankle high. They're not going to sweep you away. If somebody was in the river, they'd see you. There was no danger associated with the river. This is important. Then word came back from Pennsylvania that Jozef had a stroke months earlier. And this may be one of the reasons he's slow. It may be one of the reasons he's lost. Well, nobody knew that at the time, but now they did. On October 18th, the people that Jozef came out to Idaho with left. Went back to Pennsylvania. And they didn't tell the family when they came back to Pennsylvania, which I thought was very odd. The family originally thought that all 4 men were missing because nobody had heard from the other 3. Well, the other three finally made a statement that they weren't hunters. They weren't invited to help to search. They'd just get in the way, so they decided just to come home. I guess I get that. But what I don't get is why not contact the family for at least some type of moral support? Yeah, that was odd. But these were very well-to-do people back in Pittsburgh. October 21st, all Idaho state game wardens, even outside the region now, were responding to this call for help. There was massive numbers of people in the Chalice National Forest at the time. That was the name of it at the time. And in the Sawtooth Mountains. This was about 120 miles north of Haley. If you've never been to this area, look up Sawtooth Mountains. Gorgeous. At the time, this was the largest search in the history of Idaho. Keep that in mind. October 29th, search and rescue leaders called a stop to the search because of a heavy blizzard that blew in. Took a couple days to get everybody out of the area. And search and rescue leaders from local, state, and federal agencies agreed to talk to the press and stated that they believed that Unger died of exposure. Okay. I could see that now, big storm blows in, several inches of snow. That was on November 4th, 1919. 8 months later, June 25th, 1920. Well, before we get to that, let me show you this. So this is a map that was drawn at the time that Unger disappeared. So he'd made his way about 4 miles, and he was last seen at about this point along the Rapid River. Now, there's a fork here. Here's Float Creek. Here's Sulphur Creek. Here's Dewfield Creek. This is the route that was taken by Fouts. He looked all around this area. Couldn't find him. Followed the tracks, but then lost him. Lost him at this point on rocky ground. It's pretty rare that we get a map like this, but it was in the paper, so I pulled it. All right. So now, like I said, fast forward July 25th, 1920. You remember I've written about missing sheep herders before. Well, this wasn't a missing sheep herder. This was a witness sheep herder. A man named Lorenzo Twitchell was looking for missing sheep from his herd. Stop right there. How many times have I told you about people disappearing while they're looking for animals? Many times. Well, this time he's looking for missing sheep in an area where a hunter went missing. Well, he comes up on a creek, river, and there's kind of a small log jam there, and he's looking around, and partially laying on a large piece of driftwood, he sees a body. This is on the Rabbit River, 8 miles from where Unger was last seen. Now pay close attention to what I'm going to tell you. This was reported in the Pittsburgh newspapers. Twitchell found a body nude laying on a piece of wood. A pile of clothing was rolled up near the body. That's what it said, folks. This was found near Float Creek. Foul play was suspected, as Unger had 2 small scalp wounds. Now the Rabbit River flows into the Salmon River. And this again was reported in Pittsburgh. So as I'm doing the research on this, I always like to go to where the person was from and where the incident happened, because a lot of times you can get more personal information from where they lived. But now, it's almost like I'm reading 2 different stories. Because now, this is what Idaho reported. Says Twitchell found remains in a driftwood pile, and all the flesh was gone from the body. That's what it said. There was an inquest into the death that showed he died from unknown causes. 2 doctors, Dr. Richards and Dr. Baker, ID'd the body by dental work that was forwarded by a Pennsylvania dentist. They stated in the inquest, no violence to the body and no foul play present. The sheriff said he probably fell off a cliff into a river and drowned. What? Oh, what? I have never seen 2 different cities report an incident 2 different ways. Remember a long time ago I told you guys, local reports for local consumption. Because maybe there was something in that story from Pittsburgh that might have scared people in Idaho. so they didn't report it. Now, Idaho said, no foul play, just keep citizens calm. That's kind of what that was reported as. Pittsburgh said there was possibly foul play, wounds to the head, and clothes rolled up near the body. Key point, water level in the fall was very low. So it's not going to sweep somebody 8 miles downstream. Searchers would have seen Unger's body in the river if he had drowned under the conditions that were explained. I guarantee it. Oh yeah, Unger was German. August 4th, they had a funeral in Pittsburgh that stated Unger was possibly murdered. Interesting. Rolled up clothes near the body. Where have you heard that before? Rolled up, folded clothes near a body. Naked. So, subsection, he's a hunter. Point of separation, he's separated from Fouts. Missing adjacent to water. Found in water. Missing clothes. Clothes folded. How many of those do you have to hear before you start to think something's up? They didn't describe the scalp wounds at all. Just said 2 small scalp wounds. Well, a lot of things could do that post-death. Yeah. That case gave me a lot of whoop ya. I still think that something very unusual happened to Jozef Unger, a German. So, there were no pictures on Mr. Unger, otherwise I would have given them to you. Next case. Another German. Yeah. Man named Hanz Albert, 55 years old. He went missing September 20th, 1996, visiting the Yukon territory from Germany. He was hunting ptarmigan. Have you ever heard of ptarmigan? No? Pretty interesting. It's a type of grouse. 3 types of grouse in the Yukon. One is real popular. It's a white one. This is what it looks like. And you can kind of see its feet right here. And this is what I'm going to tell you. Take a good look at those feet. So the white ptarmigan transitioned from white in the winter, that's a good natural defense, to brown in the summer. And they have big feathered toes, almost like snowshoes. So they can walk around on the snow, stay on top of the snow. Now, if you've never had grouse, then you really can't understand why people hunt for them. They're super good. Not real good, super good. Well, Hans comes out from the Yukon, hunts this area, never been to this area before. But on September 20th, he went with a local friend to hunt ptarmigan in the Dizadish range. They drove the friends 4x4 as far as they could go, and then they got out and the pair split up to hunt. So this is the border between Alaska and the Yukon. This is the area they were hunting in right here. This is Haines Junction, Mendenhall Landing, Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve. I've presented cases out of there before where people disappeared. kind of get the flow of it. This is the ocean right here. Again, Alaska. Well, about 11 o'clock that day, Hans's friend sees him walking up a ridge. They agreed to meet back at the car at 3 o'clock. Hans was a very experienced hunter, but didn't know this area. At 3 o'clock, his friend comes back, waits at the car, doesn't hear him, doesn't see him, goes out, searches a bit, waits till 5 o'clock. And then he drove to a nearby lodge to contact the RCMP with a phone. That night, the RCMP sent a helicopter out looking. That is impressive. I don't think I've ever heard of that in the US happening, but that is impressive. So that far north in September stays light pretty late. So they had a chance to stay up in the sky and search for a couple hours. September 21st, the RCMP get officers, local hunters, and 2 helicopters to search. Kluane helicopters and Kluane Search and Rescue committed a bunch of people and a helicopter. The RCMP helo had FLIR, so they split the area and the 2 helicopters searched it. And then the RCMP also brought 3 canines to search the area. They split the dogs up, gave them a scent, let them go. September 22nd. Again, 3 RCMP canines on the scene, approximately 30 ground pounders, and they had a series of hunters in the area as well that were looking. The local lodge was feeding the people and giving them coffee. September 23rd, 12 people now were on the ground. 2 canines were searching. Now only Kluane helicopters was in the air. I've got to tell you, that location, pretty remote. The more remote you get, the more dangers involved with finding you or not finding you. Yeah, we've kind of talked about this before, but I want to impress upon you. The most important thing when you're out in the woods, tell me, is your partner. Yeah, your partner. You want to make sure that that person's in good shape so you don't have to save them. And then in an emergency, they can help you out. Meaning carry you out if you have to. September 24th, search and rescue was terminated. After 4 days, RCMP search and rescue commander was a man named Alderson. He said that Hans hadn't hunted the area before, possibly got lost. But Hans knew that if he was lost, he was to fire off several rounds. But nobody had heard any rounds. And that was troublesome. He said he appreciated the assistance from Kluane Search and Rescue. The Champagne First Nations sent ground pounders. Parks Canada contributed rangers and ATVs. And Dalton Trail Lodge on Haines Highway served food and coffee, and they were very grateful for their assistance. Hans was never found. How can that be? You see the man go over a ridge. Once you go over that ridge, you always look back. One thing I've never talked about is I have a roll of orange tape. Not sticky tape. It's like crime scene tape or tape that you'd use to cordon off an area. Say you're painting a house in an apartment complex. You want to keep people away from the apartment. So you use this tape to cordon off the area. Well, Dave, what do you use that for? I'm not embarrassed to tell you, I've been lost momentarily myself. And I always thought, the mistake I made is I didn't mark my path going in to find my path coming out. And I use this tape and I just tie it around a branch so I know I'm going the right direction. And this is a good way to help you when you're in a new area. And it might have helped Hanz. Now, in the area where Hanz disappeared, there was tons of lakes, creeks, rivers. He was German. He was in a subgroup of hunters. 3, not 1, not 2, 3 canines couldn't find him. Stop there. I've told you about people in the Yukon that have disappeared, and at about the same time they disappeared, there were major UFO reports in the area. I don't make this up, folks. I'm just reporting facts. FLIR in this area was a good tool. Hanz's body would have illuminated that FLIR in a huge way. Couldn't have missed it. He was carrying extra rounds. Again, if you're lost and you're a hunter, or you're hurt and you're a hunter, shoot off 3-round blasts every 45 minutes to an hour. People know and will come and find you. A couple of hints now. If you were Hanz, and this happened today, what would Dave want you to do? Carry a personal locator beacon. Could be on your phone, could be an independent one. Find high ground. If you're able, find high ground where there's a little bit of a clearing. Stay put. Don't wander. Why, Dave? Well, remember what Dave told you about canines. Canines pick up your scent, they're going to track point to point. Trackers follow you, they're going to track point to point. Don't make life more difficult on them. Stay where you're at. If you see a helicopter, take off your coat or the brightest thing you have and wave it above your head. That motion will bring an alertness to the helicopter and the pilot and the spotter. Truthfully, do it. If you have matches, and supposedly Hanz did, if you have matches, start a fire. Start a smoky fire. Now, once your fire gets going good, throw fresh leaves and things that'll make smoke. Makes it a whole heck of a lot easier for search and rescue. And search and rescue has the ability to pull satellite photos of an area where someone's missing. If you have a fire going, that illuminates on the fire map in a huge way. And they know, oh, let's check that GPS coordinates tomorrow. It looks like somebody's right there starting a fire. Very important. Stay hydrated. High ground usually isn't near water. So if you have to go down every day, get some water, that's the most important thing in your life. Why is that? Because you can live about 10 days or more without any food. Chances are you're not going to live more than 3 days without water or liquids. Now, I've had people argue about that with me, and yeah, there's strange cases where people have lived longer, but in general, it's 3 days. If it's in a hot environment, it could maybe only be 1 day. So it's super important to stay hydrated. Stay calm. Don't start thinking bad things. You'll be found. You have time. As long as you've got water, you've got a long time. If you follow these simple steps, you will be found. Don't start thinking, oh, people aren't looking for me. Again, if you followed the steps I've told you and I've trained you in the past, always tell somebody when you're coming out. And if you don't contact them within a couple hours after coming out, that person calls search and rescue, and it gives them the directions exactly where you're going to be. And you always tell that to your most trusted friend. Don't tell some flake, some drug addict, some alcoholic. No. You tell this to somebody you really trust. And they won't balk in calling search and rescue. You will be found. You will be. And if the weather gets real bad, the most important thing is keep that fire going. Remember, fire is life. I'm being serious about that. I get a lot of questions every week. Dave, what do you think about personal locator beacons? Blah, blah, blah. I say the same thing every week. Go to Amazon, put in personal locator beacon, and read the reviews. First of all, every personal locator beacon works. If it didn't work, it wouldn't be there. So that's not the question. Basically, two types. The first type, you have to pay a monthly fee, a subscription fee, and what that allows you to do is send text messages via satellite to like your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, whatever. Hey, I'm at this location now, and it sends them your GPS coordinates and your note. So you could have that. And you can have the cheap type that I have where I don't pay a monthly subscription. I don't pay any subscription. It's just an emergency transmitter. Boom, I pull it. Sends a notice to National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. Somebody is in deep need of help, and it gives the coordinates. They look up on their map for the search and rescue, the sheriff in that area, and they contact the sheriff and say, we have an activation, we need somebody to go out. And they will find you within 10 feet. It's very accurate. It's very good. Most cell phones nowadays have a personal locator beacon built into the cell phone. And there's big things coming on the horizon. I just heard Elon say the other day that his technology is going to come so fast and so quick and so complete that all phones may be transmitted through satellite communications sooner or later. That would be huge. If that happens, that'll put a lot of cell companies out of business. Yeah. Now, last thing, satellite phone. I carried one when I was in the woods for 10 years. I don't have one now because I usually traveling with somebody else. I may have to get one now, but because it'll be me and Huck. But sat phones are good. Sat phones work off satellite, not cell towers. I've had mixed results with satellite phones. Sometimes I had to get into a clearing and get up to a little higher in elevation, like on a ridge. The best example I could give you is I was at Ron Moorhead's Sierra camp, and there was 4 of us that were there, and everyone wanted to contact their wife, their girlfriend, tell them they're okay, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of shared the phone and moved it around, told everyone, called one person each day, and they called everyone else, said everyone was fine, blah, blah, blah. It worked out well. But you don't leave a sat phone on, okay? You make your call, you turn it off. Usually sat phones are charged by the minute with a subscription per month. It's expensive. I think it was $1 a minute on that sat phone when I had it. But I never used it except on rare occasions. And so I just paid the monthly fee. Monthly fee I think was like $29 a month. But it was like an emergency device for me. So that's my wrap up on search and rescue and what you should do if you are lost. Friends, kindness, kindness, kindness. The last week on X, Twitter, I posted a lot of things about kindness. Most of them revolving around animals. And I want you to follow me on X. If you go to X, you put that little at CanAm missing, at like Canadian American CanAm, at CanAm missing. That's my name on Twitter. I have about 60,000 followers. I post up there 3 or 4 times a day. I know a lot of you are leery about it. It doesn't cost anything to be on Twitter, nothing. And I know it used to be like the wild, wild west. Not anymore. Everyone's, to me, is ultra polite, very nice. Even if there's differences, people are still nice. So, kindness. For me, it's so easy to be kind to Huck. I saw some things the other day on about the ASPCA and how people abuse animals. I have no idea how people could do that. That's so far beyond me. I don't get it. And anyhow, one of the posts I made on Twitter, if you go back and you look at my Twitter, if you go down and you find it, there's just one where some people, I think they were in the Arctic somewhere, and they might have been on a National Geographic Explorer ship, and they were on their small boat. And as they're going along real slow on this boat, all of a sudden, this little tiny bird jumps up on their raft. And they looked around, and there was a seal trying to eat them. So they looked out in the distance, and there was this big iceberg out there, and there were all the rest of the little birds. So they slowly made their way. The bird's just sitting there looking at them, saying, "Please don't push me in the water." And they slowly moved over to the point where the rest of his friends were at. And he jumped over on the rock, ran off, and he gave a turn, looked back, thought, wow. Wow. Nature's amazing, which is the reason I go to nature, clear my mind. Huck's amazing. I'm blessed that I have her. And I know that many of you are blessed to have your animals. Huck's awake. As soon as I open my door here, she's going to be out of here. So, one more time. Gather Up Event Management is the name of the company. Gather Up Event Management. There's the QR codes. But if you go to Gather Up Event Management, they'll tell you all you need to know about the trip, the ship, and I guarantee it'll be a good time. So join us. Have a great one. Paulides out.